Aerospace Defense Command was a major command of the United States Air Forces, responsible for continental air defense. It was activated in 1968 and disbanded in 1980. Its predecessor, Air Defense Command, was established in 1946, briefly and activated in 1950, reactivated in 1951, and then redesignated Aerospace rather than Air in 1968. Its mission was to provide air defense of the continental United States. It directly controlled all active measures, and was tasked to coordinate all passive means of air defense. Air defense during World War II. Continental United States Air Defense Forces during World War II were initially under the command of the four air districts: Northeast Air District, Northwest Air District, Southeast Air District, and Southwest Air District. The air districts established on 16 January 1941 before the Pearl Harbor attack. The four air districts also handled USAAF combat training with the Army Ground Forces and organization and training of bomber, fighter and other units and crews for assignments overseas. The air districts were redesignated on 26 March 1941 as the 1st Air Force, 2nd Air Force, 3rd Air Force, and AMP, 4th Air Force. 1st and 4th Air Forces, through their interceptor commands, managed the civilian aircraft warning service on the West and East Coasts. The USAAF's Aircraft Warning Corps provided air defense warning with information centers that networked in areas, Army radar stations, which communicated radar tracks by telephone. The AWC information centers also integrated visual reports processed by Ground Observer Corps filter centers. AWC information centers notified Air Defense Command posts of the four Continental Air Forces for deploying interceptor aircraft which used command guidance for ground-controlled interception. The USAAF inactivated the Aircraft Warning Network in April 1944. Continental Air Forces. Continental Air Forces was activated on 12 December 1944 with the four Air Forces as components to consolidate the CONUS air defense mission, under one command. For aircraft warning. In 1945 CAF had recommended research and development be undertaken on radar and allied equipment for an air defense system. The future threat e.g. a radar range of 1,000 miles, at an altitude of 200 miles, and at a speed of 1,000 miles per hour, but the HQAAF responded that, until the kind of defense needed to counter future attacks could be determined, AC and AMP-W planning would have to be restricted to the use of available radar sets. CAF's January 1946 Radar Defense Report for Continental United States recommended military characteristics for a post-war air defense system based upon such advanced equipment, and the HQAAF plans reminded the command that radar defense planning had to be based on the available equipment. Planning to reorganize for a separate USAF had begun by the fall 1945 Simpson Board to plan the reorganization of the Army and the Air Force. The Continental Air Force's reorganization began in 1945, when ground radar and interceptor plans were prepared for the transfer at CAF HQ, in expectation that it would become Air Defense Command. CAF military installations that became ADC bases included Mitchell Field, Hamilton Army Airfield, Myrtle Beach Army Airfield, Shaw Field, McCord Field, Grandview Army Airfield, Seymour Johnson Field, and Tyndall Field. Air Defense Command 1946. Air Defense Command was activated on the 21st of March 1946 with the former CAF 4th Air Force, the TBD-S 10th Air Force, and the TBD-S 14th Air Force in December 1946. Development of radar equipment for detecting and countering missiles of the German A4 type was planned. The Distant Early Warning Line was first conceived and rejected in 1946. A 1947 proposal for 411 radar stations and 18 control centers costing $600 million was the Project Supremacy plan for a post-war radar fence that was rejected by Air Defense Command since no provision was made in it for the Alaska to Greenland net with flanks guarded by aircraft and picket ships, for 3 to 6 hours of warning time, and Congress failed to act on legislation required to support the proposed system. By 1948 there were only 5 AC and AMP-W stations, including the Twin Lights station in NJ that opened in June and Montauk NY Air Warning Station No. 3, cf. SAC radar stations e.g. at Dallas and AMP Denver bomb plots. ADC became a subordinate operational command of Continental Air Command on 1 December 1948 and on 27 June 1950. United States Air Defense Systems began 24-hour operations 2 days after the start of the Korean War. By the time ADC was inactivated on 1 July 1950, ADC had deployed the Lash-Up radar network with existing radars at 43 sites. In addition, 36 Air National Guard fighter units were called to active duty for the mission. ADC was reinstated as a major command on 1 January 1951 at Michel Air Force Base, New York. The headquarters was moved to Ent Air Force Base in Colorado Springs on 8 January 1951. It received 21 former CONAC active duty fighter squadrons. ADC was also assigned the 25th, 26th, 27th and 28th Air Divisions. ADC completed the Priority Permanent System Network for Aircraft Warning and Control in 1952. Gaps were filled by additional Federal Aviation Administration radar stations and the Ground Observation Corps. In May 1954, ADC moved the 1951 Command Center from a former hallway latrine area of the NTFB headquarters building into a much improved 15,000 square foot concrete block building with main battle control center. During the mid-1950s, planners devised the idea of extending the wall of powerful land-based radar seaward with airborne early warning and control units. This was done by equipping 2 wings of Lockheed RC-121 Warning Star aircraft, the 551st Airborne Early Warning and Control Wing, based at Otis Air Force Base, Massachusetts, and the 552nd AEWCW, based at McClellan Air Force Base, California, 1 wing stationed on each coast. The RC-121s, EC-121s and Texas Towers, it was believed, would contribute to extending contiguous East Coast radar coverage some 300 to 500 miles seaward. In terms of the air threat of the 1950s, this meant a gain of at least 30 extra minutes warning time of an oncoming bomber attack. ADC's Operation Tailwind on 11-12 July tested its augmentation plan that required Air Training Command interceptors participate in an air defense emergency. A total of 7 ATC bases actively participated in the exercise, deploying aircraft and aircrews and supporting the ADC radar net, as the USAF prepared to deploy the Tactical Air Command E-3 Sentry in the later 1970s. Active duty units were phased out EC-121 operations by the end of 1975. All remaining EC-121s were transferred to the Air Force Reserve, which formed the 79th AEWCS at Homestead Air Force Base, Florida in early 1976. The active duty force continued to provide personnel to operate the EC-121s on a 24-hour basis, assigning Detachment 1, 20th Air Defense Squadron to Homestead AFB as associate active duty crews to fly the reserve-owned aircraft. Besides monitoring Cuban waters, these last warning stars also operated from Keflavik, Iceland. Final EC-121 operations ended in September 1978.